Welcome back to Rock and Rattle Retreat, where we've cleared a little bit of forest, dug a hole, and now we're pouring in footings, or at least I should say over a year ago we poured in footings, such as this. We have video of all that stuff that happened before, so if you're new here you can go back and look at it. Some of it's kind of boring, but that's the way it is. Let's see if the voice works on this camera. Alright, they don't tell you about the little jobs you gotta do. So, here we have an indentation in the floor. That we need to fix. There's also one over here that little corner ripped out. So there's no problem on the underside, but that one, the underside is screwed. Back down into the basement we go to check out the bottom of the floor. All right. So that is where the problem is. Sorry about that. They dropped something heavy up there. It came through the floor. Well, it didn't come through it, but it made a mess of the floor. Okay. Tried and true. Little wood glue. Okay, a lot of wood glue. And then stir in lots of sawdust. Makes a good filler. It's not as bad as it was. It got pushed up, but I took it out, so. Okay, so we're going to try to mend this back up. Get the glue kind of pushed into all the broken fibers. Okay, let's go back down here and check out and see what happened, if anything, and put on a board. Well, I don't see any glue coming out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this over the top so the glue doesn't stick to it if it does come down. And we're going to beat it to death. So there we go. That should hold it up a bit more. And we'll go look at the top now. So that did come up a little bit. Let's just try to push it down a little bit, smooth it out. And that's what we got. And we'll let it dry. Moving back down to the basement, what they did when they put these beams in is they had to chisel out the pocket bigger, because when they poured the concrete, the pocket was not big enough for these beams, because I think they resized the beams after they poured the concrete. So I am putting some concrete filler back in beside them and smoothing them out so that it doesn't look as bad. This is all cosmetic. There is no point where this concrete that I'm putting in here is actually holding any weight. Just to make it look better. And I also fill in some of those little divots and air bubbles that were in the concrete. But this one seemed to be very deep, so I started off filling it in, and it got to the point where it couldn't be filled in anymore without bulging out somewhere else. So I let it harden up, and I'm back to put the final coat on here. I guess you can't really see it on the video, but there was a good sized divot there. You can see how much of that concrete stuff I'm putting in here. Concrete repair, basically, to get it evened out with the rest of the concrete wall. Okay, here we go. We are in the garage. The end of the joists that are for the floor on the first floor. They did not put a rim board in here, so we are creating our own rim board. We're using 2x4s, creating another little platform, and then we're going to put OSB on the outside. It's actually 2 layers of OSB so that it looks like a rim board, because this is where the wall is going between the house and the garage. So we're also putting on a strip of flooring to make it at level with the rest of the flooring. And we're going to nail this flooring on down. So we got 2x4s underneath that for bracing, the OSB, double layer OSB, and then the strips of flooring. Nobody's ever going to see this because it is going to be a wall on top of this. So we need all of that to brace up that wall. The wall will come later. Alright, to the extremes, we're now up in the attic. We need access down from the attic into, this is going to be into the mudroom. We could have put it in the garage, but the, what do you want to say, height between the garage and the ceiling is much greater than the mudroom and the ceiling. So I got a square, I drew a line up here. We're going to drill a couple holes so that the blade can get down into that hole and we can see it from the bottom side to make sure we're in the right spot. And we're going to take advantage of the joint there on the right side, so we don't have to cut as much OSB, because there's OSB on the bottom side of this, which is the top side of the ceiling. Get over here so I can get some pressure down. And then we're going to do one at the seam, or two of them at the seam. One at this side of the seam. And one on the other side of the seam. I can now tell you from experience, let's see here, we're going to look at the bottom here, is that you want to cut it from the bottom and not the top, in reality. Alright, there's a hole there, hole there, this is in the seam, then there's a hole here, and a hole there. So that square we're going to cut out.
Zip, 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 zip.
We're also going to do one on the other side for the other garage ceiling. And don't actually show it here, but this is the seam we're cutting down through. And these saws do not cut perfectly straight. That blade gets off a little bit and, well, it cut some of the OSB and it didn't go straight through the seam. I think the better thing is to mark the bottom. Drill the hole so you can mark it. And then there you go, just stick it up there from the bottom. You get a lot more stuff coming down on you, but I think you probably get a better saw than if you go from the top down. At least on this stuff, because there is 3 inches of foam sitting there that you got to go through to start with to get to the OSB. And of course you think running it right along the 2x4 would be perfect. It would just be a straight nut. No, it doesn't. Okay, then we cut this one here along my line. And you can tell it's foam coming up, and I got a lot of foam. We call it snow. Just pulls a lot of foam. Alright, there it's cut.
Bang on it.
There's going to be a lot of snow coming down with it.
Okay, I got it.
Watch the snow. And I got more snow up here.
Yeah.
And that's our access hole now. Alright, back to the basement. This is where the stairs to the basement are going.
I don't know why they didn't.
And you see this board, I think I've shown it before a while back. That is flooring board. When the framers came in, they floored right over this. But there's no joist over this, underneath this. So it's been a hazard this whole time. but they never took this out, cut this flooring off. I thought maybe when the framers came back and did the roof trusses, they would remove this, but they didn't. So I was like, okay, it's our job to do it now. So we're going to take this Sawzall and cut along here. Just say the Sawzall is not the hammer you want to use on this. Well, you got to use it to get it cut, and then we got to clean it up eventually. It does not leave a very straight line, and it can't get to that edge as close as you think it should. Sure, it looks like it should, but there's from the top. Going along that 2x4 there, you would think it'd be a nice straight line, and it's not. So it's the finishing touches eventually that we gotta do. Okay, get that one cut. And of course we gotta cut from above. This is a much straighter line using a skill saw. Much straighter, much quicker. Chalk a line down. Set the depth of the blade so it's just coming out the other side. Or maybe not. Get this edge finished cut. If I can find it. There it goes. And I'm down there walking on a little giant ladder, setting the scaffolding, and it will break off. I'm darn sure it'll break off. Now it is tongue and groove, so we got to break through the groove to get this thing out of there, on that left side there. Go on, keep going, girl. You can't see it in the video. That right hand side over there is a bit wobbly. Like I say, we'll clean that up later. At least we get this piece out of here so that somebody doesn't step on that floor piece and fall into the basement. Unless I do have a little railing around it. Alright, down to the basement. We've had this door for a while. We need to get it installed. So we tried a while back to install it. We got it all dry fitted in there and decided, you know, it's just going to take longer than we really want to do at the moment. So we put it back and we'll do it later. And this is when it's later now. Because you can't just lean it in there and let it go for a while, because there's a lot of wind going through the house and out this basement door. So it needs to be totally installed. And of course, installation requires construction adhesive on the threshold. So once we start this, and there we started. Put construction adhesive on the bottom, and of course a lot of construction adhesive on the bottom. And then put it on the concrete threshold so nothing is missed, and you don't have a lot of tube left after that. Okay, stand her up. Get it in place. And it's not just, get it in place and screw it down. You gotta level it up, plumb it up, make sure the door opens and closes easily, replumb, re-level, check all the gaps. Now these concrete walls are about 7.5 inches thick, and the door is made for a 2x4 wall, so we got to get extension jambs put in too. That'll come later. Let's just get this thing in to start with. Get some shims in here. So it's a long process of shimming, checking reveals on all the sides, leveling, shimming, check reveals, check to see if the door closes without any rubbing or anything. All the while that construction adhesive at the bottom is drying. More shims. You want to make sure everything is not going anywhere before you start putting in any screws at all. And our problem is that they poured this basement opening with 2x8s basically sit in there, so the concrete wouldn't be in the actual door area. So they framed it in the form with 2x8s, so those 2x8s have been sitting there since it's been framed or been poured, and that's all we got to attach it to. A 1 2x8 on all the sides except the floor side. So the other thing is what we're doing eventually is we're putting in tapcons, so it's also driven into the concrete. Usually putting these things into a door jamb that has two 2x4s or two 2x8s, so you have plenty for your screws to bite into. We only got one.
Well, I was going to have you get other stuff while I get...
So here is basically not the finished, but at least screwed in, lock on it, doorknob on it, which is a lever. And there's from the inside. Still have to foam around the outer edge to plug all those gaps. And that's all we got for you this time. Nothing on the outside changed. It was all interior, small stuff. But it's got to be done. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to keep track of us. We get some more interesting stuff coming up. At least I think so. Once we get, some of this stuff done, we'll be working on the inside. But at least there's 2 or 3 more things to do on the outside, like windows and doors and siding, which haven't gone on yet. So thanks for watching. Subscribe to keep track of us. Comment. It helps the algorithm and for other people to watch. Share it out there somewhere. Bye.